I've had it with all this Nickelback hating, right? You think that makes you cool with the cool kids in school, Fred?
No, it just makes me right.
It doesn't.
They're overproduced, formulaic, ear garbage.
Oh, really? You know who might disagree with that? Facts. 50 million albums worldwide, 11th best-selling musical act of all time, Billboard's most successful rock group of the last decade, 6 Grammy nominations, 12 Juno Awards, those count, 6 Billboard Music Awards, 2 American Music Awards, 1 People's Choice Award, Canadian, and a partridge in a pear tree.
It's time for a beer, rum, and rock rock shot. This time I'm joined by John Garner and Dany B to review the Nickelback documentary, Hate to Love. Directed by Lee Brooks, it's an intimate portrait of the Canadian stadium rockers' roller coaster career, from their rural roots in Alberta to becoming one of the most successful yet divisive acts in music history. But before we give our thoughts, let's take a look at the trailer.
Did you want to come and see all the good folks that showed up tonight? Line them up!
I knew that I always wanted it to be a part of my life. I had no idea it was going to be this integral. It always felt right standing on stage and performing for people.
Hannah was the quintessential sleepy little farm town.
Because there's not much going on, it's really easy to get in trouble.
I was a bad kid.
He was either on his way to it or from it.
I think the cops really wanted to get me out of this town. That I can tell you.
I'm glad he got into music.
Brian played the guitar. That's where the common ground was.
4 guys in a van that shouldn't have made it 2 miles, and they were living the dream.
In the 2000s, there wasn't a band on the planet that got more radio airplay than Nickelback.
How You Remind Me has been considered one of America's most played songs ever.
All of that exposure triggered a reaction.
Why does everybody hate Nickelback?
Nickel bad, Nickel hack, Nickel bomb, Nickel creed.
Nobody picks up a guitar to be in the most hated band in the world.
They were part of cancel culture before we had a name for it.
It's kind of just like a long-running meme.
They became the most hated band in music.
We try and laugh it off. You can laugh off about 90% of it, and some of it hurts.
The complaints about Nickelback aren't unusual. Their songs are formulaic.
But I think sometimes people want to hear vacuous, dumb shit.
He's an amazing frontman, you know. He's a badass.
I've always felt a sense of loneliness about Chad.
I don't have an identity without this band.
This is gonna be tough to talk about.
I'm not in Nickelback anymore. Okay, I quit.
They mean so much to each other. They've grown up together. The chemistry is real. It's palpable.
To those of you who see this band as some big corporate sellout, fuck you.
Everybody's got an opinion about them.
Nickelback, fan or liar?
I play Nickelback songs to Nickelback fans. So I don't have to go and try and win over someone who doesn't like my band. That sounds like some very strange form of torture. Probably for both of us.
Hey boys, how's everybody?
Woo!
Cheers, mate.
Back.
Awesome. For a Monday.
Yeah, right? What are you guys drinking? I got a boring-ass Corona.
I'm drinking Bronc, all the way from Calgary, Alberta.
Bronc? Cool.
Yeah. It's the new cheap beer.
That sounds good. I have a Sam's Club tequila.
Oh, nice. Añejo.
Yeah, it's fucking good, too. First time I tried it, so cheers.
I cannot do tequila. Everybody goes, oh, Randy, you got to try the good shit. I go, does it taste like tequila? Yeah? Well, then no.
It is different. Yeah, I know. I mean, good stuff is good stuff, man. It's so good.
Yeah, especially on the rocks like that. You just sip it like scotch.
No, I can't do scotch either. I'm not man enough to drink that shit, apparently.
That's what it boils down to.
Hard booze is a problem. I stick to beer and I know what's going to happen. Hard booze, it's a whole other program that I've learned I can't really deal with effectively.
Roulette wheel for you, is it?
Yeah, it's a little Frank or Hank, whatever, Hank the Tank.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to this, boys. We're finally reviewing this documentary. It's been out for a while now. It's on Netflix. But before we dive into what we think of this doc, I want to go around and everybody just briefly give me your opinion on this band coming into this documentary. You guys fans? You not fans? Let's start with you, John. What are your thoughts on Nickelback? There you go. The t-shirt says it all.
I'm a fan.
Well, it's a question mark.
So you're not a liar.
Nope.
I got to say I'm a fan too. I mean, I honestly, there's a few times during the last decade or whatever, I kind of jumped on the hate bandwagon a little bit temporarily, just because it was like, oh shit, like, they were just all over the radio, and I'm like, fucking Nickelback again. But I saw them live, man, and they're a fucking good band.
No, but here's the fucking deal. So you're like, hear them all over the radio and shit like that. You motherfuckers never grew up in a situation where rock wasn't played on the radio. So for me, growing up as a child, we had one station, one night a week. BBC Radio 1, the Friday Rock Show. 10 till midnight with Tommy Vance. That was our guy. That's the only time you could get rock on mainstream radio. It never got played unless it was somehow in the charts or what have you. And even then, so infrequently. Coming over to North America, and I experienced it for the first time in, when would that have been? 83. I came over on a school trip, went to California, and it blew me away that they had radio stations that all they played was rock music. It was fucking wild. We just didn't have it. So you can't play that shit enough for me on the radio. You just can't. Anybody that says they get played too much on the radio, fuck you all.
Well, fuck me then, because I'm with Dany on that one. Yeah, it was just, here's my deal. I don't even listen to the radio. I really don't. And it was still unavoidable. This band was still getting on my nerves. And I don't even listen to the fucking radio. You just couldn't get away, man.
I'm just going to piggyback onto what Dany was talking about, going to see him in concert. Watching those guys play, that is 4 guys who are out there still having the time of their fucking lives. Watching them at the Saddle Dome, it was as fun a concert as I've seen in decades, because they clearly were having a good time. And that to me is infectious, and ultimately, that's what that whole fucking gig is about.
And they sounded killer. They sounded great. Chad's voice is undeniable, like rock and roll, man. Was that the show that when Cheap Trick opened up?
Yep.
Yeah, I was at that one.
Fuck, Cheap Trick opens for everybody, don't they?
I know. They don't care.
Okay, I'm going to be the fly in the ointment on this one.
We know.
I disagree with everything you guys just said. Look, is it cool they're from Alberta? Fuck, of course it is, right? But man, other than Chad, I couldn't name another guy in the band. If you had a gun to my head, I couldn't name anybody in the band. I couldn't name an album. I could maybe name 2 songs. To Dany's point, they're unavoidable. They're everywhere, but I still don't know who's in the band. Why? There's not a rock star in this band except maybe Chad. You got to be cool for me. They're not cool. I don't want to see a guy that looks like me on stage. I don't want that.
I get it. You'd rather see a 300-pound Vince fucking Neil not be able to fucking know what he's saying. That's what you. And I get it. Look, everyone has their thing. That's your thing. It's fine. It's completely okay. I happen to like music.
Who said I like the 300-pound Vince Neil? What are you talking about? Oh my, Vince Neil in his prime? Absolutely. I would rather see that every day of the week. Yeah. I mean, you're right, John. On paper, you think I would like it. Big riffs, the fucking big rock show. But man, I just find it so down the middle. It's like what Red Lobster is to seafood. That's what it's like for me. It's like, it's boring to my fucking ears. And sorry, Dany, I think Chad Kroger's vocal, it's boring. Like, he just sounds like a generic rock voice to me. Sorry.
It's hard to sing like that, though.
I bet it is. Yeah.
Like, I can't sound like that.
Right.
Like, I can't come close. I wish.
The epitome to me is that song Rockstar. I just want to fucking...
Right.
When I hear that piece of shit song, it's like nails on a chalkboard. What angers me the most is Billy Gibbons and Gene Simmons are in the video, who guys I love. Why are you in this video?
Yeah.
There's no edge.
Right.
Like, they don't have a tone and edge that I need.
Because they want to be tied into a hit. That's why. It's a fucking hit.
It sounds like bro country. I fucking hate bro country. That's what it sounds like. Right?
It does have that kind of vibe.
Oh,
to
my
it, for sure,
kinda.
yeah.
And you mentioned the show, John, and I get it. There's pyro and stuff, but what if they didn't have that? What if they had no pyro, no nothing? Would it still kick ass?
Oh, come on, dude. You can't go down that road. So you take all that stuff away from all the other bands. You're telling me that the shows are equally the same? No, not even a little bit.
I'm not saying the show's the same. I'm saying the music isn't there. Like Motley Crue with no show, I would still enjoy it because I like their music. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. Like, do you think the songs are that good?
You got to think, though. Motley Crue hit you in a different way when it came out, though. Like, it grabbed you by the balls in a different way that probably Nickelback ever will, right?
Or Aerosmith? Pick another band that's cool. Just name one.
When a Nickelback song comes on, I don't fast forward or turn the channel. I don't. I like it.
Okay, I'll just sum up like this. I hear what you're saying. I guess it just depends how much you like the band to begin with, whether a stage show and pyro is just icing on the cake, or does a band need it? I mean, that's up for debate, right?
Yep.
Just for me, I want my rock stars to look and act like rock stars, and I don't see that. To me, there's nothing special going on there at all.
I'll give you that.
You know what I'm saying? It's just bland fucking whatever. There's a market for that, and I get it. There's an X factor there they don't have for me to gravitate to them and go to their shows and whatever. That's all.
Those guys can shred, though. Like, musician-wise, they can shred.
This is the next segment of Randy, You're Wrong.
Hey, John, wait for it. I finally got one. Dany's like, what are you talking about? I've been talking about getting one of these little bells for every time John says I'm wrong. I need a bell, so I got one.
Oh, yeah. I think I remember hearing
You
that.
better get a backup for this exercise because that's going to wear out.
Let me just say this, too. For any band, whether it's Kiss or Motley Crue, whoever, to become this successful, you need just as many people hating you as liking you, right? And these guys took a fucking beating. Like, when that backlash started, I mean, there was a part of me, I thought, awesome, I'll admit it, right? Like, who doesn't like their opinion, like, validated, right? It's human nature. But as time went on, I kind of felt bad for them because, you know, it's not like they're the only band creating what I would call mediocre, boring-ass rock, like fucking Creed and Bush and Default and Third Eye Blind and Three Doors Down and fucking all that shit's whatever to me, right? But they just became the fucking poster boys for this. No matter how many arenas you're selling out, I mean, you're only human. It had to affect them, obviously. It just has to. You know what it reminded me of, you guys? I don't know how big into stand-up comedy you guys are, but do you remember when Andrew Dice Clay was fucking massive in the late 80s, early 90s? He was the poster boy, too, of what was wrong with stand-up comedy, right?
Right.
So he's just playing this character on stage. He's acting, basically.
Yep.
But rather than choosing not to go see him or changing the fucking channel, people decide to make him this whipping boy for comedy. Like, when you're that big, there's people that just want to fucking tear you down, and that's just a cycle of entertainment, right? That's just what they do.
100%.
That's kind of what happened to Nickelback.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, my dislike of the band doesn't keep me up at night. Like, fuck. I just don't go to their shows and don't buy their music and go on about my fucking business.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
And that's that.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's finally talk about this documentary. So, why don't we do this? Because I'm the type of person, when I'm watching this shit, I'll watch it once, and then I'll watch it again, and just whatever thoughts that pop into my head, I'll just fucking jot them down.
Yep.
So this is no exception. That's what I did. So why don't I start this thing, and I'll just make a point, and if you guys want to piggyback on it or add to it, we'll just kind of see what happens that way. Does that sound okay?
Sounds great.
Does that sound cool?
Sure.
And just see where it fucking goes? Okay. The inception of the band. Like, what happened to that original lead singer? It was like, boom, they're in the recording studio making an EP. Like, I thought they kind of skimmed over that really fast, and I kind of wanted to see more of that, was a thought I had. Like, that early incarnation of the band. Did you guys feel that? Like, it was like, boom, they're in the studio. It's like, what?
Actually, I think that's a thread all the way through the whole show. They go into a story or a piece, they sort of drop a little bit, but then never really finish off the thread. There was just sort of like a almost sort of veneer going across the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah, you're bang on that, Randall.
Overall, they could have dug a little deeper. I mean, I just think of that Tragically Hip documentary. Another band, I don't love the Tragically Hip, but that documentary was fucking killer.
Yeah.
I realize not everybody's going to do a 4-hour documentary, but if you're into a band, like if you're this into Nickelback, that's really what you want.
Yeah, I agree. They should have elaborated on some of the topics that they touched on, because it was kind of like, it just left me kind of hanging.
Right, exactly. And another point I had on the positive, like being a newer band, because, the technology's there, it wasn't super surprising, but there was some awesome archival footage, man, of this band in the early days, which is super key to a good doc. You want to see that shit. There was loads of it.
Yeah.
So that was awesome.
I got a question for you two guys. You guys ever been to Hannah?
Yeah, I've driven through there a few times.
Driven through, yeah.
I've only driven through the town. I've never actually stopped in there.
A little fun fact. So this would have been in 97. I was on a road trip out to Winnipeg, and driving back, my truck broke down. I was an hour outside of Hannah. I got towed, and we pull into Hannah. I take the truck to the Ford dealership, and one of the earliest scenes when they're showing that old footage coming through the town, there's the Ford dealership there, and those are the guys that fixed up my truck.
No way.
Nice.
Danny, you could probably speak to my next point, because you're the only one of us who's actually in a fucking band. It was cool to see, the drive these guys had in those early days. Nobody showing up. They're playing these fucking shitty bars, paying your dues to the max. They clearly, like them or not, worked their asses off. And you can't take that away from them, man, for sure. Respect for that, right?
Yeah, and again, they only show bits and pieces of them being on the road. I mean, I think it was Ryan Peake's mom and dad. They were like, it was kind of sketchy at the van, the 4 guys in the van, and it's like, I don't know if they're going to make it, like, I'm sure they broke down dozens of times, more than likely, in those early days, and, we're stranded, or we got to cancel a show, or we got to postpone, or whatever. They don't really talk about that, but I'm sure that shit happened.
Oh, absolutely, right?
Like you say, Ryan Peake's folks, stringing them a line of credit, keeping them going, having that faith. And then fast forward, I loved it when you fast forward to when they get inducted into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame, and they pan to Ryan Peake's folks sitting there filming it. That was really cool. I thought it was a lovely touch.
Absolutely. To your point, John, like having that kind of support from your parents.
Yeah.
Like how many bands fail because they just don't have the dough to keep things on a certain level.
Yeah.
And they just got to pack it in. I mean, it was huge. That kind of support is massive. Plus, you have a serious DIY attitude. They did their own self-promotion, distribution, booking at the beginning. I mean, that shit's a lot of work. Meanwhile, you got to focus on writing songs and playing gigs. I mean, man, especially Chad. I mean, clearly he's the driving force. These guys wanted it bad. And you have to want it bad to get on that level. You just do.
Shit like calling radio stations and pretending you're somebody else just to, hey, did you guys hear that new Nickelback record? You should play this song.
That's right.
Plugging her away, man.
It's being relentless, right? And it's like having that self-belief that, like, you know what? We're as good as anyone else. Why not us? So what are we going to do? It's the champion mindset. What are we going to do today to get better? What are we not going to allow to stand in our way? They didn't allow anything to stand in their way. They absolutely should be applauded for it.
Even coming down to the cousin who started out in the band playing drums. He kind of alluded to the fact that he decided to step back because he just couldn't handle the road. But was it more of a band decision? We don't really know why exactly he kind of decided to quit the band, and then they got another drummer. But obviously the next guy that came in, they kind of went to that next level.
Well, you're leading nicely into my next point, Danny. I was going to say that. When I hear that, these drummers they went through early on, and I know they don't have a fucking crystal ball. They don't know they're going to become Nickelback. But looking back, that's got to be rough. What if they're kicking themselves, fuck, I should have stuck in there, man.
It's like the Pete Best story with the
exactly.
Beatles.
Exactly, yeah.
You know what was really cool? And Randy, I was thinking about you on this. Again, when they had the induction ceremony to the Canadian Music Hall of Fame, the second drummer that they had that then got fired, he was on stage with them, which I thought was really fucking cool.
Well, he was a big part of that success early on, so.
Massive part, but I always think about when we're talking about Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, who gets inducted, who doesn't, who was in the band, who wasn't in the band. You know, Judas Priest is inducted. Is it everybody that was in Judas Priest ever? And Randy's like, no, it can't be, God damn it.
No. I'm like the stickler, yeah.
Yeah, but I thought that was really cool that they were all up there.
Not the sidebar, but you're telling me when Maiden finally gets into the hall, you want Yannick Gers up there getting an award? No
Absolutely.
way, I don't.
Absolutely.
Fuck off. That guy's a wanker. Anyway. Okay, I know this is cliche as hell, but you need luck, right? I don't care what band it is. You need some luck. Getting a record company to invest in you and shit. But when luck meets opportunity, you need to fucking deliver. And that's what they did. I mean, that's where that work pays off, right?
Yes.
And Roadrunner Records, speaking of that, sticking with these guys. Like, they're bleeding money left and right. Yes, they want their money back, but you don't know if Nickelback's going to hit the way they want. Sometimes you're better off cutting a band loose, but man, it was impressive that they stuck with them.
There's that great business line, though, and it's not just business. The harder you work, the luckier you get. For all the hate, and we'll get to that segment of the documentary, but there is a complete lack of acceptance of what those guys did and went through to get to that stage. You know, from that side of it, I think it's unfair. Again, whether you like the music or not, there's a lot of athletes I'm not huge fans of, but I will never discount the effort. And I don't believe in sacrifice. I believe in choices. We make choices. When you say, the sacrifices we made or what have you, sacrifice is a negative connotation. You made a choice because you wanted this, so you did this. You left that behind. Whatever it may be, we make choices. And there are always consequences to those. And I'm sure they have, over time, there's been relationships that have been impinged on, lifestyle things. What I do think is really cool is that basically, other than Chad, they've all got families. They're clearly family guys. That's an important piece, and they're able to pull that together. But his drive is something different. And good for him. He's made that choice, and I'm not prepared, good, bad, or indifferent, I'm not prepared to have something else dissuade from that. And I think that should be applauded.
Okay, being the fly in the ointment, in a perfect world, if you're in your 20s, don't fucking get married. Don't have kids if you're pursuing this career. That's what I think. Like, leaving your wife and kids at home while you're doing that, it's hard on everybody. Don't do that till you have Metallica money or some money where you can just fucking do what you want. I don't get athletes and rock stars who do that. I really don't. You should be banging as many chicks as you can and fucking get going crazy. Chad's the only one who got that right, if you ask me. Like, he's the only one who did that properly. Fucking stay single, have no kids, wait till you get some success and do some shit, and then do that. That's what I think.
I think for a lot of people, it's probably there's just outside pressure, mom and dad or whoever, like, and, the girlfriend, you're in love with a girl and you just think you can make it work somehow. And
they want to have their cake and eat it too, and I get it.
Yeah.
Here's my point about them not being rock stars. Rock stars, that would never work. There'd be divorces everywhere. This is the upside to their boring non-rock star personalities, is they actually made that work.
Right. This is where the personal piece comes into it, right? You're Ryan Peake. If he does a better job for the band because he is grounded with his wife and his family and his personal life, then that's exactly what he should do. If you remember back to the documentary with him specifically, while they were in the stage with their first kid, the wife and the kid were on the tour bus. They were in that situation. The band had already gotten to a point where they had separate tour buses. They raised their first child and first dog on the road.
Yeah, I know. I'm just being an ass. But, okay, now imagine being Chad. You want to party with your fucking bandmates and their wives and babies. That would suck. Like,
make some new friends.
Yeah, that's right. Make a lot of new friends. Exactly.
I'm pretty sure he didn't care too much about that.
And that's exactly it, Dany. I think they should be applauded for figuring out, for four guys, how to interact with each other when they've got different things going on.
Different strokes. I'm just poking the cage. When I think of a rock star in their 20s, I don't think of a wife and kid backstage. That's just me. I'm looking for fucking Motley Crue 85 and Aerosmith 1977. Yeah. That's rock stars to me. That's all. But good for them. To my next point, they blew up fairly quick. And it's pretty impressive nobody went off the deep end and right off the fucking rails. I mean, I'll say that.
Right.
I mean, nobody really did that, so good for them. Because that could easily fucking happen, right?
Yeah.
And then there's no band.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Well, coming back to the first drummer, I mean, maybe that had something to do with it for him to just say, hey, man, I can't do this, you know? Like, maybe he was kind of, you know, overindulging or whatever, and it just got to the point where he just couldn't handle it anymore.
Exactly, man.
But again, we don't know, right? Like, it's one of those broken threads again.
God, you guys are leading me, like, nicely. Because one of my next points was...
Danny and I have been rehearsing.
It's good. You guys had your own meeting. What's clear to me, once again, is not everybody's built for this lifestyle, to your point,
Yep.
Danny. Like, going on the road for those extended periods of time, 2-year stretches, like, it's an unnatural way to live, for sure. Which leads me into Chad poaching. That drummer from Three Doors Down, that was a major dick move. You got to admit that. That was fucking not cool. That's all I got to say about that.
And then Daniel Adair saying, you know, he was getting advice from certain people that, oh, Nickelback's done, you know, fuck those guys, you know. And then he's like, I don't know, man.
Seems like you made the right move.
Right? Another random thought. Say what you want, boys. It was clear the rock and roll fantasy looks amazing, doesn't it?
Yes.
Like, the adulation. You get to see the world. You get the money. It never gets old for me. When I see that, even if I don't like the band, it doesn't fucking matter. When you see a band get to that point, god damn, that's got to be fun.
Right.
Like, honestly, what would top that?
Being on this show.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
That never gets old, man. It really doesn't. Oh, my God. Okay, let's talk about the hatred for this band. Let's go to that segment. No matter how much you dislike any fucking artist or band, if I saw them walking down the street, I wouldn't roll down my car window and tell them to fuck off. Like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Like, I don't understand the motivation to project your own fucking bullshit. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Onto somebody who is clearly 1,000 times more successful than you're ever going to be in your fucking life. I just bitch to my friends about it and make offside comments on a podcast and call it a fucking day. That's what I do, and that's that. That's where it ends.
Right.
Any thoughts on that, guys? Or
yeah, it's just jealousy. That's it.
Yeah, mostly that's what it is.
I mean, there are I would say, very few people who I have that sort of level of toxic hatred for that if I saw them walking down the road, I'd feel compelled to walk up and say something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's ridiculous, yeah.
it's insanity.
To me, it says more about the other person.
Absolutely does, man. And you know, it's one thing not to give a shit what people think in a normal walk of life, like the three of us. I don't know about you, but I don't give a fuck what people think about me.
Clearly.
But when it's on a scale like that,
yeah,
a social media level,
yeah,
where you can't ignore it if you tried, that had to be fucking brutal.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. Sure, they got fuck you money. Doesn't matter. They're still human beings, and that had to be awful.
Yeah.
For sure. As they said in the documentary, it sounded like it hurt Chad more than the rest of them. I'm sure it hurt all of them, but he was the focal point. He is the target man. He's front and center. He's the face of the band. I'm pretty sure Ryan Peake could come and knock on my door right now, and I'd be like, what are you selling? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I know. Still a hell of a fucking guitar player. It also becomes easy targets.
Man, when you're a part of every talk show's monologue and this kind of shit, it's like, what?
Yep.
And when it trickles down to your family, like it did for them, your family's taking heat, that's fucked up. I mean, that really is fucked up.
That was the piece to me, is when Ryan was talking about, like, you know, his kids coming back having a tough day at school because kids are shitting on him. And kids who probably don't even know the fucking music.
Yeah.
That's the other side of it.
It's that weird bandwagon of when people kind of get on a bullshit bandwagon of whatever. It doesn't matter what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like mob mentality kind of thing.
Yeah, and it snowballs out of control. Like, it doesn't even really make any sense. What the fuck, really? Like I said, I almost got caught up in it. I remember being in conversations with people where I would tell them that I liked Nickelback, and they would fucking attack me. And I'm like, the fuck? It's a band. It's just a band. Like,
it's just music, man. You don't have to like it. That's okay. I do. Yeah.
I'd be the guy in a party defending Nickelback.
Right.
Awesome. I'd be the guy giving you a hard time. It's all good. I think it's fun.
Yeah. Some people take it to another level, though.
Is that how you two met?
Some people take it to a level of like vitriol that's just fucking, what the
That's
fuck?
just it, Danny. There's a line that gets crossed.
Yeah.
I mean, we can all joke about bands we like and don't like.
Breaking each other's balls about something is one thing, but then, taking it to the level of complete hatred and, just animosity.
They need to start a support group with Winger, because they were that band in the 80s, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
Fucking Beavis and Butthead destroyed their career overnight because the fucking loser on that show had a Winger t-shirt. That was it.
Right.
Here's the other side of that, though. The biggest thing out of it is you get to the other side of that, you're now indestructible. Imagine for a minute you're Chad, right? All the hours and miles and all the stuff that you've done to get to this stage. And now you're getting slammed, and all we've done is keep producing, in essence, the same music, and now we suck, but we're still selling millions of records. The record sales didn't slow down. Let's be fucking clear about that.
And there was asses in the seats. Fuck.
For sure.
Yeah, exactly. The shows were selling out.
And one of the notes I'd made earlier was that he got to the point mentally where he was like, well, hang on a second. What am I doing? I'm making Nickelback music for Nickelback fans. And as long as there are Nickelback fans,
yeah,
what does it matter? Like, how freeing is that?
That leads me nicely into the quote of the doc for me. I don't know which band member said it, but he said, sometimes you want to hear vacuous shit. He's talking about his own music. I go, well, they delivered on that. Mission accomplished.
Yep.
It's vacuous shit.
I think both Ryan and Chad said that at least.
Oh my God. Is that a compliment? Whatever.
If I'm walking the dog or I'm working on something, I got music playing in the background, it's good. Driving down the highway, it's good.
Yeah, a lot of our favorite bands over the decades have fucking written. I wouldn't call it bubblegum, but it's not that far off.
Absolutely. I'm abruptly changing gears. These are Randy's random thoughts, so bear with me. When that drummer was having issues, and Chad told him they're going to get a fill-in guy, but they would wait for him to get better, and then he would be back in the band. Wow. I just thought, man, that is such a fucking solid move that not everybody would do that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was really badass.
It really touches on the character of Dan Adair, that he was a good guy. He was a funny guy. He was a bro to them. So for him to feel like, oh man, that's it, I'm done. And to expect that you're going to get replaced by somebody else and then get a phone call saying, no, man, you're our guy, man. This is temporary. It really speaks on the character of the rest of the band. Their integrity is like top notch.
Yeah.
And like I don't know a lot about this band, to be honest. So if there was a positive thing about this doc, like I think it was about the 1 hour mark, and there's still a half hour to go. I'm like, well, what's left? We've done the controversy.
Right.
Well, and I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody, but there's some drama comes in, these health issues and shit. And I just found that section really moving, right? They're talking about the future of the band and what the band means to each guy. And it was moving stuff. I wasn't expecting that because I didn't know they had all these issues, right?
Right.
I was pretty moved by that. It showed, to your point, Danny, the character of the band, and that was cool.
I like the bits where Mike and Chad are shooting pool, and when he was talking about Chad losing his voice, and fuck, that must have been one of the scariest thing ever for that guy. Like he's the voice of the band, and all of a sudden he's got no voice.
And the rest of the band, like Chad loses his voice, y'all are done.
Okay, kind of winding down a bit. I thought it was cool, man. That full circle moment when they went back to Hannah to play that gig, revisiting the old haunts and friends.
So good.
That was pretty cool. That's all I got to say about that. Yeah, it was cool. I mean, overall, guys, I just thought the last half hour, so it ran out of steam a bit, but it didn't ruin the doc for me. It was well done, but just like the band, even the doc felt middle of the road. It really did, because I've watched a ton of these things, and it just did. It was pretty formulaic, like pretty down the middle, super light on the debauchery, because like you say what you want about Motley Crue, I want some of that shit, and on the Rockstar curve, they're not that exciting. Let's face it, they're just not. It's not their fault. It's just their personalities, and I'm looking for that.
I would 100% agree with you on the doc in and of itself. It was very formulaic. It sort of offered some things, never really quite got to closure of some things. Overall, at the end of it, Was I disappointed with it? Nope, not at all. You want to know about Nickelback? Watch the documentary. It's an easy watch. You'll like it. It'll tell you a little bit about the band.
I really would have liked it if it would have been a series like the Tragically Hip doc. It just kind of skims across a bunch of topics, and it's like, fuck, what happened after that? You know, like, I wish they would have elaborated on more on certain parts, but
it's pretty surfacey, yeah. I mean, for me, overall, to go through what these guys went through and come out the other fucking side, fairly well-adjusted human beings, is pretty fucking impressive.
Yep.
I mean, I did have that final thought. I mean, they went through some shit.
And now I think doing it more on their own terms, which is ultimately where you want to get to. You're now impervious to it, so what does it matter? Who gives a shit?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was good, not great. I made this note. It's the Nickelback of rock ducks. At least it's a tight 90. I didn't have to sit there for 5 fucking hours like I did for the Jovi doc. Oh my God. That was only good for about 2 hours. The other 3 was like, oh my God, man. I'm going to sum up with a quote, boys. It's a quote from the Black Keys drummer, Pat Carney.
Yeah.
Are you ready? Rock and roll is dying because people became okay with Nickelback being the biggest band in the world. So they became okay with the idea that the biggest rock band in the world is always going to be shit.
I never heard that before.
I'm out. Thanks, I'm out. Oh, I laughed when I heard that, man. Thoughts? I don't like the Black Keys anymore.
You like Billy Corgan?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's a fan. He's a supporter.
That guy took his fair share of hate, by the way.
Billy, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I've said this a million fucking times. It's no different than comedy. I can't make you laugh at Bill Burr, whoever it is. Either you're going to laugh at it or you're not. Music is exactly the same for me. It hits my ears and I go, hey, that's cool. Or, oh my God, I don't like that. That's it.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Exactly.
You can't make me like a band. I can't make you dislike a band.
Yep.
It is what it is. It's just, I get a kick out of fucking, like Dany said, busting balls and talking about it. It's all good.
It's like food, man. Some people love cilantro. Some people fucking hate it.
I hate it. Yeah, I can't do it. I'm one of those.
Yeah, and I think whether you're a fan of the band or not, I mean, it's undeniable. The journey that they went through from start to where they are now, I mean, they're not done. They're not retired. For the new generation of kids that want to pick up a guitar and be a rock band, I mean, they can watch this and fucking get some inspiration out of it, I think.
100%, Dan. 100%.
It's inspiring in a lot of ways. That's true, dude. Absolutely.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, that's a wrap. Thanks for joining me, boys. That was awesome. Thank you to you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate you taking the time to hang with us. Let us know what you guys think of Nickelback and their documentary, Hate to Love, in the comments. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are, too. You can find us on all the socials, wherever podcasts are broadcast. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, kids. And until next time, on behalf of Dany B and John Garner and myself, keep rock alive, kids. Peace out.
Elvis has left the building.